it's a devastating thing that the community had to occur, but we're going to move on, and we're a strong community.
Tonight, the arena and community center of Timiskaming in northern Quebec is destroyed by fire.
This huge change, it betters the lives of everybody.
A community in Manitoba wants to approve a sand mine because it will bring jobs and money, but some people there want nothing to do with it.
Alors, à partir d'aujourd'hui, nous cessons toute négociation sur les négociations territoriales.
And the Atikamekw Nation in Quebec has been waiting 40 years for their land claim to be resolved. Now they want to go to court to get recognition. Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward. The Federal Justice Committee was in session today looking into allegations that someone in the Prime Minister's office tried to influence Canada's Justice Minister at the time, Jody Wilson-Raybould, to help out Quebec construction company SNC-Lavalin ahead of a major legal trial. The man who replaced Jody Wilson-Raybould, Canada's new Justice Minister, David Lametti, personally testified before the committee. He is one of 3 witnesses who were questioned by the MPs. He described the legal issues surrounding confidentiality as very complex. Lametti also says he's unwilling to speculate on what conversations took place between the Prime Minister's office and his predecessor.
Any communication from the Prime Minister to the Attorney General could be perceived as an attempt to influence her decision, improper interference, because she's only the Attorney General. Is that not true?
That is not how I would interpret the Shawcross principle. Attempting to influence is something that you do as an MP, that I do as an MP, that our constituents do to us as MPs. It's part of what we do around the cabinet table. Sure. It's what we're part of. So attempting to influence is something that is part of our... It's part of the... No, let me answer the question, please. It's part of the DNA of our political process. The question in Shawcross, in the quote that you raise, is pressure. And that is a subjective determination. Like, we can't talk about that without knowing the facts.
Meanwhile, Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt says based on the testimony she heard in the Justice Committee today, it's clear the PMO applied inappropriate pressure on Jody Wilson-Raybould in the SNC-Lavalin case.
I think the testimony is stunning. I think the amount of pressure that the Prime Minister's office, either through his own operatives or through the Clerk of the Privy Council, is incredibly unprecedented. The December 19th phone call where he calls her, he initiates the call just to check in and then takes it upon himself to explain to her all the people who are going to have so many problems. That is inappropriate political interference. That is inappropriate pressure. That's telling the Attorney General what to do.
Now to Iqaluit, where the Nunavut Legislative Assembly has begun their spring sitting. Yesterday was Budget Day, and our Kent Driscoll joins us now from the Legislative Assembly. Kent, what did the budget contain?
Yesterday's budget was a bit of a look back as Finance Minister George Hicks tried to show how far Nunavut has come. You have to keep in mind, April 1st is Nunavut's 20th anniversary, and how much Nunavut has done since April 1st, 1999 was a major theme. As for balancing the books, Nunavut will take an expected $2.21 billion and will spend around $2.22 billion. Now that leaves a deficit of around $12 million, but they do have a $30 million contingency fund for emergencies. So if the territory can get through this calendar year without an outstanding emergency, there may be a small surplus left at the end of the day. Now, Minister Hicks time and time again pointed out how far Nunavut has come over the last 20 years. The size of the economy has doubled, with an average gain of 5% gross domestic product annually. Now, Inuit employment within the government has also doubled within that same time period. Now, there were a few line items that weren't reviewing history. There'll be an additional $14 million for medical travel, $600,000 for a few more medical positions in smaller communities, and $4.6 million for addictions and trauma. All in all, it was smaller amounts of money for things that most of the MLAs do agree on. One place the budget was not well received was across the street at NTI, Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, the land claims organization that represents Nunavut Inuit. President Aluki Kucherik said in a press release, quote, "On a day we should all be planning for an improved territory, we find ourselves having to point out yet again that the government of Canada needs to invest in Nunavut or see their precious budget suffer under growing social assistance and social housing needs." They also think that the government of Nunavut should be spending more money on social housing than the 100 units provided for in this budget. Back to you in Winnipeg.
Thanks, Kent. To Northern Ontario now, where leaders from Cat Lake First Nation and Indigenous Affairs have reached an interim agreement on how to address the housing and health crisis. At a meeting in Thunder Bay today, the Minister of Indigenous Affairs said Canada will build new houses in the community, repair others, and provide portable units. The agreement comes just days after the death of a Cat Lake woman who is said to have had health complications related to living in a mold-infested house. Last month, the First Nation in Northern Ontario declared a state of emergency over a housing and mold crisis. The interim agreement commits $3.5 million to build 15 new housing units in the community, $2.1 million to repair and renovate 21 existing units, and $2 million to deliver and install 10 portable housing units for permanent use. The small Algonquin community of Timiskaming First Nation in northern Quebec has lost its arena and community centre. At 2 in the morning on Monday, part of the roof of the recreational facility collapsed due to heavy snowfall. But a few hours later, after Hydro-Quebec workers seemed to have the situation secured, the $6 million structure caught fire. Surrounding municipalities were called for support. No one was injured, but a band official says it's a big loss for all community members.
I'm sure the community is devastated at the loss of the arena because we used it for numerous events. It's not just an ice rink. There's a hall there where we have gatherings, we have meetings. There's a kitchen there where we can host events of all types, meals and whatnot. We used it daily for prepare meals for the students of our Kiwethan school, which is next door. It's a devastating thing that the community had to occur, but we're going to move on, and we're a strong community, and we're banding together to see what we can have for the future for not just our children, but the community at large.
We want to hear what you think. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptn news. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest Indigenous news. A proposed silica sand mine project in Manitoba has divided one First Nation community. Members of Hollow Water set up a peace camp in the community over the weekend. They say the project comes with environmental problems, but Chief and Council disagree and say the project will bring some much-needed economic opportunities. Brittany Hobson has that story.
This is Camp Morningstar. The peace camp was set up in Hollow Water First Nation after exploration began on a proposed sand mine project.
The teepees were erected not so much as a protest or not so much as a blockade as it is for us to come together in ceremony.
Lisa Raven is a band member. She says the camp was started to create a safe space to share concerns over the project. One of the main ones being the demolition of a community trap line.
It holds, a special place in our lives. So, if you don't own a trap line, or if you're not in line to inherit one, then this is the place where you would learn those things, where you would be, given access to the land.
Canadian Premium Sand is in charge of the project called Winnebago Sand. The company is hoping to build an industrial plant to extract silica sand from hollow water, and the neighboring communities of Seymourville and Manicatogan. Hollow Water Chief Larry Barker says the community has access to another trap line, and after extensive consultations with CPS, believes the benefits of the project outweigh the negatives.
The community is scared for that change. I know what the community is facing. This is a huge change for them. But this huge change, it betters the lives of everybody because there's going to be job opportunities.
The project is expected to create 150 jobs for the three communities. Consultations began about a month ago, and the last one will take place at the end of the month. Bronwyn Weaver has been facilitating those conversations. She says the project has been designed to create the least amount of environmental damage.
One is that we're not taking any water from Lake Winnipeg, and we're not discharging any water into Lake Winnipeg. We're not touching the lake. The second thing is that all of the processing is done inside buildings so that we can contain our dust and manage it in the safest way. The third way is that we are going to incorporate something that's called rolling restoration. And that means that when we mine the area, the following year, we're going to be restoring the area that was mined.
The province has yet to approve the project. Barker expects a decision in the next couple of weeks. The camp will stay until the weekend, and then we'll decide what to do from there.
And I think both sides have a valid point. You know, like the jobs are needed, you know, opportunities are needed in our community. And, you know, we also have to protect the land and our future. So, like, who wins in that situation?
Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Hollow Water First Nation.
Oh, is that the guest book?
An organization called End Homelessness Winnipeg is trying to do just that, but they have a long way to go. They've announced the results of their 2018 Winnipeg Street Health Survey. Primarily, homeless people were asked about their experiences in the city and what their needs are for health and social services. Over 70% of the 406 people interviewed identified themselves as Indigenous. Lucille Bruce speaks for End Homeless Winnipeg. She's not surprised by the results.
It is very concerning, and part of what we're hoping to do, and we recognize, we need to look at any policy changes from a cultural lens, an Indigenous cultural lens. Not only do we need to look at from a cultural lens, we need the involvement of the Indigenous communities to find solutions that will work for the vulnerable populations.
As you can imagine, there's a lot to talk about on Nation to Nation tonight. Here's a look.
Coming up on Nation to Nation, the political panel wades into the SNC Lavalin scandal as questions continue and the pressure mounts on Jody Wilson-Raybould and the Prime Minister to come clean. Some members of the panel speculate on whether reconciliation is dead with the government because of it. One thing that apparently isn't dead is child welfare reform legislation. As Liberal MP Mark Miller insists, it will be tabled very soon. And the Indigenous Languages Act, Bill C-91, cleared another hurdle. It passed second reading and was discussed at the Heritage Committee. It's all coming up right after the national news.
Here's a look at Friday's weather forecast starting on the East Coast. Sunny and -2 for Halifax, a sunny -3 for Fredericton. Not so nice in Nain, 23 below with sun, -17 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. -1 in Montreal, -8 with snow for Saguenay. +2 in Windsor, Sarnia, London, and Toronto. -1 for Thunder Bay, -4 for Kapuskasing and Timmins. -15 with snow for Churchill, 11 below in God's Lake. 11 below for Winnipeg as well, -12 and sunny skies for Brandon. -13 in Regina, 11 below with sunny skies for North Battleford. -10 in Meadow Lake, Buffalo Narrows, and La Ronge. Welcome back. It was not that long ago the Auditor General came to the Northwest Territories to issue a harsh report on how the government there is handling kids that are in their care. Since then, the government has been scrambling to fix the problems. Now they say they hope to have solid plans to show to the legislature sometime in March. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs has been following CFS stories since the government received the failing grade. She sat down with one youth who recently aged out of care and is now fighting the system herself.
She spent the majority of her life, a case number, in foster care. This is just one story of nearly 2,000 Indigenous youth stuck in the Northwest Territories' broken child welfare system.
I blame myself that I was put there. Like, they didn't want to keep me or anything like that. I just kept going house to house to house.
This is Atikamekw, Fort Providence. It's home to the recently aged out of care youth, who we will call Jane. This is where Jane was born, but she didn't grow up here. She spent her childhood in foster homes, 3 hours away in Yellowknife. She remembers one painful visit where she was reunited with her mother.
I was 10 years old and I didn't even recognize my own mother. It was really heartbreaking. I didn't know who she was.
Once in the system, Jane says she and her 2 younger sisters had little contact with their parents.
It was really hard for them. The social workers would never tell us that our parents called or asked about us. They left letters, but they wouldn't give it to us or anything. So we thought our parents just gave up on us.
The girls bounced around foster homes, changed schools 3 times, and burned through nearly a dozen social workers. Jane says her sisters stayed together like a pack, acting out at the very mention of being split up.
We wanted to be together. If they kept us apart, we didn't eat, we didn't do anything. Didn't socialize with the other kids, didn't go to school or nothing.
At 17, Jane had a son and she quit school. But after a tough battle with postpartum depression and a lack of support, she put her son in the custody of family friends. She still visits him from time to time.
Yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking when he doesn't call me mommy, though.
The next year, when she was 18, she aged out. She was no longer part of the system, but things didn't get easier.
I wish I had known what my plan was. Like, I'm used to being told what to do and what not to do, but I didn't have anyone to tell me.
Jane's story, being bounced around in foster care, having a kid, and no real idea about what to do for the future, is pretty typical for a kid in the Northwest Territories government care. And it's caught national attention.
Since our 2014 audit, the Department of Health and Social Services has focused much of its attention on changing its processes, which serve to introduce complex changes into an already overburdened system.
That's the Auditor General in October 2018. Since the last report in 2014, child welfare and child protection services have declined even farther. Like Jane, many children and youth are falling through the cracks of the NWT welfare system. According to the 2018 Auditor General report, 9 out of 10 kids in care did not have regular communication with their social worker. And when they were placed in a foster home, there was no background check. That includes a criminal record check or just a basic family background check. Health and Social Services Minister Glenn Abernathy says the government didn't have a clear picture on how and what services were being given to kids like Jane.
We'd been doing our own audits as well, and a couple of years ago we did an audit and our audit tool failed miserably. It was very frustrating, I think, for everybody involved. And as a result of that, we've tried to strengthen our own internal auditing process. So we'd started seeing some of the things when this second audit, really the first one that worked, came in that the Auditor General pointed out. So we started making corrections back then.
Abernathy also says the government had been moving to try to have a prevention-based approach.
Focusing on helping build strong families, helping to keep families together, avoiding apprehension as much as possible as long as the safety is addressed. We've moved in that direction. We have made profound changes in our system. But one of the things that has become clear through this Auditor General report is that we didn't resource the changes effectively.
But prevention or not, lots of kids in the territory still end up in government care. Iris Hamlin is the executive director for Side Door. It's the only housing first and emergency shelter for youth in the NWT. And 85% using this service have been or are currently involved in the system. Hamlin says the government needs to work with not-for-profits who support youth this time around.
One of the things that I have noticed is that, I expected after that, the 2014 report, that there would be more engagement with the NGOs, meaning us. Nothing has changed with regard to the support that we get from a financial perspective. There's no increase in beds or anything like that from social services.
And Jane will also require support services as she tries to break the cycle. She became a mother again 7 months ago. She left her daughter in 3-month temporary care with the family who looks after her son. She is trying to get back on her feet, a job, and a space of her own.
To see her first walks, her first word, she's already grown teeth already at 3 months. That was impressive. I want to give her everything that I didn't have.
Jane says the CFS worker has advised her to move to Yellowknife to be closer to services, but her mind is made up. This time around, her daughter will grow up in her home community. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Atikamekw, Fort Providence.
And we'll continue our look at the child welfare system tomorrow. Time for another quick break, but stick around. There's more to come. Here's the rest of Friday's weather forecast, picking back up in northern Alberta. -3 with snow for Grand Prairie. -3 under sunny skies in Medicine Hat. 4 below for Lethbridge. 4 above for Campbell River and Vancouver. Bella Coola as well. -13 in Fort Nelson. +6 for Prince Rupert. -16 in Rock River. -13 for Whitehorse. -11 for Fort Liard and Trout Lake. 20 below for Yellowknife. -28 for Sax Harbor. -26 in Paulatuck. -29 for Baker Lake and Cambridge Bay, where there will be snow. -26 in Arctic Bay and Clyde River. Welcome back. A natural phenomenon at California's Yosemite National Park is getting a glowing review from visitors. Tourists are coming in droves to the park for the so-called firefall, when rays of light from the setting sun hit the waterfall at just the right angle. It looks like lava is flowing over the cliff. It's only expected to last for a few more days. Pretty cool. That's your APTN National News for this Thursday. For the latest, visit our website, aptnnews.ca, and you can download the APTN News app. Now, don't change that channel. Nation to Nation with Todd Lamarand is next. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.